Maybe someone called in.
Say, I need help at, you know, and 90% of the time they'll react to that. Not even think that you're just bluffing.
Yeah, 35. We're gonna finish this one today.
What happened to the bus today? No bus?
No bus, no driver. Back to Ryan and back to not the bus. 7 qualified drivers.
It's a little more complicated. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. You need a sheet. You don't know the song. You have treasure sheets. Okay. Who else needs a sheet? You need a sheet? Okay. He knows. Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi ISKCON Church, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad, Paramahansa Buddhika Church, Ashtotar, the Shishiman, Divine Vishnu, Bhakti, Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavadgita ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta ki Jai. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to the Assembled Devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 17th day of February, 2016 in SanDiego. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are on the last verse of chapter 13 entitled Nature, the Enjoyer, and Consciousness. This is text 35, page 564 in most of your books. And have we run out of books? No, there's books. Your page number will be different, but it is the last verse of chapter 13. Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam Antaram Jnana Chakshusha Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha Ye Vidur Yanti Te Padam Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam Antaram Jnana Chakshusha Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha Ye Vidur Yanti Te Padam Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam Antaram Jnana Chakshusha Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha Ye Vidur Yanti Te Padam.
Chaitra Chaitra Ganya Evam
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha
Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param
Thus
Kshetra Kshetrayayorevam
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha
Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param. Dana.
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha
Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param. Marquis.
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha
Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param.
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Antaram Jnanam Chakshusha
Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham
Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param. Marcy.
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam
Chaitra Chaitrangayorevam Antaram Jnana Chakshusha
Bhuta Prakriti Moksham Cha
Bhuta Bhakti Moksham Cha
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param
Ye Vidur Yanti Te Param. Ina. No? Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Chaitra of the body, Chaitra Gayo of the proprietor of the body, Evam, thus Antaram, the difference. Jnana Chakshusha, by the vision of knowledge, Bhuta, of the living entity, Prakriti, from material nature, Moksham, the liberation, Cha, also, Ye, those who, Viduhu, know, Yanti, approach, Te, they, Param, the supreme. Translation, those who see with eyes of knowledge the difference between the body and the knower of the body, and can also understand the process of liberation from bondage in material nature, attain to the supreme goal. Purport. The purport of this 13th chapter is that one should know the distinction between the body, the owner of the body, and the supersoul. One should recognize the process of liberation as described in verses 8 through 12. Then one can go on to the supreme destination. A faithful person should at first have some good association to hear of God, and thus gradually become enlightened. If one accepts a spiritual master, one can learn to distinguish between matter and spirit, And that becomes the stepping stone for further spiritual realization. There's some kind of echo or bounce going on. Can we turn the volume down a little bit? Yeah. Stepping stone. A spiritual master, by various instructions, teaches his students to get free from the material concept of life. For instance, in the Bhagavad Gita, we find Krishna instructing Arjuna to free him from materialistic considerations. One can understand that this body is matter. It can be analyzed with its 24 elements. The body is the gross manifestation, and the subtle manifestation is the mind and psychological effects. And the symptoms, and the symptoms of life are the interaction of these features. But over and above this, there is the soul, and there is also the supersoul. The soul and the supersoul are two. This material world is working by the conjunction of soul and the 24 material elements. Okay, this is making a distraction. You can hear me? Can you hear me?
What is how it's working? Oh,
What about
wireless.
up there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so then let's forget about this.
Internet.
You don't need this.
What's the difficulty? Really?
Sorry.
What's wrong?
No. The soul and the supersoul are two. This material world is working by the conjunction of the soul and the 24 material elements. One who can see the constitution of the whole material manifestation as this combination of the soul and material elements, and can also see the situation of the Supreme Soul, becomes eligible for transfer to the spiritual world. These things are meant for contemplation and for realization, and one should have a complete understanding of this chapter with the help of the spiritual master. Thus end the Bhagavad purports to the 13th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. So at the end here, Om Jnanat Varandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So in this last verse, again, Krishna talks about seeing, isn't it? Chakshusha, Jnana Chakshush, the eyes of knowledge. So, what does one see with the eyes of knowledge? The first thing is the difference between the Kshetra and the Kshetragya. Now, Kshetragya means the knower of this field. But as we learned at the beginning of the chapter, there are actually two knowers of the field. There's the living entity, the individual soul, and the super soul. The super soul is the knower of every body. We know our body a little bit, right? We're conscious of our body. But there's an unbreakable bridge, really, or unbreakable chasm, say, between the soul and the body. We're categorically different. But because we have lost our vision of the Supreme, of our real perspective, we identify with this external body. And that includes the mind as well as ourself. And this is the great illusion of every soul in this material world. We're taking ourself to be something that we're not. And because of that situation, all our problems arise. Prahlad Maharaj, in his seventh canto, Prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, he has this one verse where it's very nicely explained. He says, Yasmat priyapaya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina sakalayona shodayamana dukaushadam tadabiduka matadiyaham bhuman bhamami vadaneta vadasa yoga. So there he's analyzing our situation in this material world. And he says, Yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga janma shokagnina. Shokagnina means a fire of lamentation, of distress and anxiety and fear. Arises from those things which are dear to us being ripped away by the force of time and my material energy. And things which are painful being forced upon us. You analyze it, that's really what material life is all about. And this causes our anguish in this lifetime, and also in other lifetimes. Sakadayonusha means in all species of life. Dayamana, burning in this fire of lamentation.
Now, in the human form especially, we have various strategies for curing this or mitigating this suffering. These are called dukkha aushadam. Aushadhi is a remedy. It actually means an herbal remedy, but in general it means remedy. So dukkha is misery. Dukkha aushadam. Tadapi dukkham. But those remedies themselves bring more suffering. Right? Just like we built up over the history of modern civilization, the weapons industry. Why? Because there are dangers posed, mostly by other human beings. So we'll invent gunpowder. That was a whole revolution, right? You go from arrows to gunpowder, and then there's weapons. You have missiles. You have all kinds of stuff that they have, and all of that is to defend ourselves against the dangers of others. But what happens? Well, the other side is also developing their weapons. So before long, you have an escalation, arms race, right? To the point where you have the nuclear bombs and you have the bacteria, the bacteriological weapons and all these things, and both sides have it. So are we actually safer now? It means that we can kill each other by the millions rather than just by the hundreds. So our remedy has become the source of more misery. Right? And then in 4 syllables he analyzes it, and it comes back to this verse. Atadiyaham. Aham means I, diya means idea or conception, and atat means the conception that I'm something that I'm truly not. Tat here stands for tattva or truth. And atat, we're identifying with this body as ourselves, and that's the original fallacy of this material world. So here Krishna says that one who's seeing with the eyes of knowledge, who has read this chapter and understood it, say, then we know the mechanical difference between the field of activity, this body, and the knowers of the field. And bhuta prakriti moksham, and you become liberated by this process of devotional service, saturated with knowledge, and liberated from your entanglement in this material world. And then you go to the supreme, te param. What is that supreme? The supreme destination is that place, that state of consciousness, beyond this illusion, beyond the suffering caused by the illusion. So this is a very nice wind up to the chapter. And we can review this chapter quickly, unless there are any questions on this final verse. So we begin with Arjun's questions in the chapter, text 1 of this chapter. Bhaktam Purusham Chaiva. Arjun wanted to know 6 things. He wanted to know what is prakriti, nature, what is the purusha, the enjoyer. The enjoyer is the living entity in the mood of exploiting and enjoying nature. And the field and the knower of the field. These are actually the same thing. The field, or chaitra, is made up of prakriti. And the knower of the field is the living entity who is acting as the enjoyer. But it's from a different analytical perspective. But the knower of the field is made up of prakriti, and the knower of the field is indeed the purusha. And then he wants to know of knowledge and the object of knowledge. In other words, we're not just investigating this as some kind of interesting topic, to contemplate. But there's a goal for the knowledge. We're trying to achieve something, come to a final goal by understanding these things. So Krishna answers, the body is the field. One who knows the body is the knower of the field. And you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. So this is the second knower, Krishna. And to understand the body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. And then I think it's in this purport, or in this section, where Krishna says, knowledge means this one little formula, to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. You can just remember that. Real knowledge. Now, what do we have in the Western world? It comes as knowledge. Basically, just one of those 3. Matter. If we understand matter, and matter includes subtle matter, all IT, right? All of this information technology, computer science, all of these things. It's all just matter. It may be more subtle matter or more gross matter or whatever. Or archaeology, digging in the earth or looking in the sky. It's all just varieties of matter. But who is the controller of all this matter? And what are we as spirit? It's categorically different from this matter. That they don't know. So their knowledge, so-called knowledge, just keeps them in ignorance. Matter, spirit, and the controller of both. Comes up in this chapter. So then Krishna goes on to first he has an introductory verse in text 4. What is the Chaitra? Please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, its changes, what is produced, who is the knower of the field, and what its influences are. So now he's going to go into a little more detail of what the Chaitra is made up of and how the soul or knower of the field interacts with the field. And then, Krishna, as an example, now he's the source of all conclusive knowledge. But here he's saying, the rishis have talked about, Rishabir Bhagavad. This knowledge on the knower and activities is described by various sages and various Vedic writings. So by example, Krishna is giving us, we don't just, try to figure it out on our own. We refer back to the realized sages who have written books, who have spoken, who have taught, and who have realized this knowledge. That's the firm foundation. Otherwise, you're cast adrift on the ocean of speculative philosophy. Whatever we can think up with our own, brains. But it has to be imperfect. There's a nice verse in the Mahabharata that speaks about this. How can we really find out what is the truth about Dharma, about real religion? So he says, Tarko Pratishta Shutiyo Vibhinna Nasa Vrishirya Samatam Nabhinna Dharma Satatam Nihitam Guhayam Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta. So Tarka, arguing back and forth, you never get to the end. In my college days, over 50 years ago, we would sit, who doesn't? We'd have coffee shops, we'd sit there till late at night, arguing this and that, Socrates, no, Plato, no, Kierkegaard got it right, and back and forth, And you never come to any conclusion. Well, what do I do in life? How do I follow a path, for sure, to get to the goal? So that's true in every culture. There's always mundane wranglers, So Tarka or Pratishta means you never get to the conclusion. Shruti Avabinda, even if you study the Shrutis or the Vedic literature on your own, you can go to the bookstore, you can go to the library, you'll find a shelf on world religions, and there's the Bible, there's the Quran, and there's the Bhagavad Gita, and there's the Upanishads, and there's a whole section on Buddhism. I was one of those people, looking for that. And I took the books out and I read this and that, and I had no idea what to do. So that's Shruti or Vibhinna. Even the Vedic Shrutis seem to differ. Vibhinna means there's differences. So that's not going to help you come to the conclusion. It's going to also, without the guide, you see. Nasa Vrishirya Samatam Nabhinna. And to be a philosopher, you have to differ from other philosophers to make a name for yourself. So there's even so if you're just going on, rishis without actually understanding who the real spiritual master is, then you'll also be confused. So then he says, Dharma Satatam Nihitam Muhaya Mahajana. Then you have this idea of the Mahajan. Mahajans are those in which the real truth is reposed. And the truth of Dharma is situated in their heart. And so you have to hear from someone who is realized or is simply a channel for the realized knowledge coming from these great souls. Now, how do we find out who they are and what the real knowledge is? Well, for that, we have to consult genuine scripture, Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad Purana. And we've got the great opportunity of having come in touch with the realized soul, Srila Prabhupada. And, that's how, and it's great fortune, because otherwise we're just moving in the dark, groping in the dark. So that's what Krishna's Brahma Sutta Bhadaischaiva. Various sages presented Vedanta Sutra with cause and effect, so there's logic there, but it has to come down from the higher source. Then he gives a little list of what is the Chaitra, Maha 6 and 7, the 5 great elements. What are these 5 great elements? Who can say? Earth. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. It's good to remember in that order because it's more and more subtle. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Those are Maha. We call them Mahabhutas. And the Ahankar, that's false ego. Intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses, the active senses, the knowledge-acquiring senses, the mind, 5 sense objects, match the 5 knowledge-acquiring senses, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, life symptoms, convictions. All these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interactions. So it gets very complicated, this whole field, you know. And then 8 to 12 is a description of knowledge. Very important section, key section. And he begins with amanatvam, humility. Because as long as we try to think that we can figure all this out on our own, we're not going to be able to enter into the real house of knowledge. So he has this list here. Humility, pridelessness, nonviolence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these are knowledge and everything else is ignorance. So each one requires some explanation, and that's why we have this really long purport. We'll probably go through each element to describe. So we won't review those now, but this is, he does say the most important element is bhakti vicharani, which means unalloyed and constant devotion to me. So then what's the goal of this? That's the gayam. The goal of this knowledge is not just knowledge for knowledge's sake, but it's the goal. And that's text 13. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal. Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So Brahman in general means spiritual reality. Now that Brahman appears in 3 stages. The undifferentiated white light, Brahman, called Brahman Jyoti, which is ultimately the effulgence of the body of the Lord. But if you don't believe in that, if you have no access to this personality of God, then you can go as far as that white light. And this is a stage of Brahmabhuta beyond all pains and suffering. But there's no variety there. There's no other person, it's just consciousness. So that's one aspect of the goal. But then Krishna begins to describe the super soul. So you have Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. These are the 3 stages of the absolute truth, approached by different means. The impersonalists who deny the variety or even location of the Supreme Soul, they can approach the Brahma Jyoti. The yogis who meditate on the Lord within, they generally approach and realize the Super Soul. But only the bhaktas, only those who are engaged in pure devotional service, can realize the Lord in His full personality with all the varieties in the spiritual world. And that includes the other realization, Brahma and Paramatma. So we're aiming for that realization. But he continues to describe the Super Soul. Everywhere are His hands and legs, His eyes, heads, faces. He has ears everywhere. In this way, the Super Soul exists, pervading everything. The Super Soul is the original source of all senses, yet He's without senses. He's unattached, though He is the maintainer of all living entities. He transcends the modes of nature, and at the same time, He's the master of all the modes of material nature. Now, I remember when we got to this verse, this is very Upanishadic. This, there's a verse in the Upanishads, Apaniparo Javano Grihita. Means that He has no hands or feet, but He can grab anything anywhere, and He can go faster than anything. He has no ears, but He can hear everything. How is that? It's very koanic. The koans, seemingly one hand clapping. But seemingly a contradiction. But that's what the Supreme Person is, beyond the limits of our usual logic. How can something be one and different? How can God be within every atom and yet everything is within Him? If you have a bag and the apple's in the bag, then the bag can't be in the apple. Right? But that works for Krishna. So that's what this verse is about. He's the original source of all senses, yet He's without senses, material senses. Nirguna, He has no material qualities. Not that He doesn't have any qualities. He has infinite qualities, but spiritual qualities. And here, Bhairantast, He's inside and outside. The Supreme Truth exists outside and inside of all living beings, the moving and non-moving. Because He's subtle, He's beyond the power of the material senses to know or to see. Although far, far away, He's also near to all. Although the Super Soul appears to be divided among all beings, He's never divided. He's situated as one. Although He is the maintainer of every living entity, He's to be understood that He devours and develops all. So the example is given, you go out to this beach in high noon and you spread a whole bunch of little pots out there. And if you get the right angle, you'll see the reflection of the sun in every pot. But the sun is one, but still one can say there's a presence of the sun in every pot. So similarly, God is one, but He's expanded in the hearts of every single living being, including us. The same person is there. And this is what we have in common, is our relationship to the Supreme Soul and the fact that we're pure spirit ourselves. And here it says, although the Super Soul appears to be divided among beings, He is never divided. He's situated as one. Although, we read that. He is the source of all light and all luminous objects. Beyond the darkness of matter, unmanifest. He's knowledge, the object of knowledge, the goal of knowledge, situated in everyone's heart. Then Krishna sums up. Thus the field of activities, the body, knowledge, the knowable have been summarily described by me. Only my devotees can understand this thoroughly and thus attain to my nature. Why? Because it's a matter of revelation. You can only go so far with your present senses and your mind and intelligence. Really what we're trying, Krishna consciousness is like a huge prayer. Everything we do is trying to reach out, Krishna, to take us up, enlighten us, purify, like that. You know, it's not dependent on the strength of our meditation, how long we can sit, you know, or the perfection of our pronunciation. It's all developed based on the heart. Is that how much you're really willing to subordinate yourself and call out to Krishna in helplessness. There's a nice verse. There's always a nice verse in the Bhagavatam. It describes how one calls out to Krishna. Apahata sakalai is far meter. Apahata sakalai shana malatman yavidate vedate bhavano bahuta. Dijajana bashagata matmano yan nasadati chin nevavakshavakshakami. So apahata sakalai shana amala means amala means pure, with a heart purified of all material desires. When such a devotee is calling out to the Lord, he does so with ever increasing emotion and sincerity. Upahuta means inviting. He's always inviting the Lord, please appear to me, please lift me up. You see? And such a devotee, Krishna comes under the control. How is that conceivable? He's a Gita. He was one of these other paradoxes. He's unconquerable. And yet he agrees to come under the control because of the emotional attachment to love. Bhakti is all about that. And he's never separated from the heart of such a devotee. You never feel the Lord is God. You always feel the presence of Krishna. So that's what it takes. Okay, so we're going on. Source of light. Thus, I've spoken of the field of activities, knowledge, the knowable, in summary. Only my devotees can understand this. Material nature, the living entities, should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature. So how is material nature beginningless? Everything in this world has a beginning. This body has a beginning, this building has a beginning, this earth has a beginning, this whole universe has a beginning. How is it beginningless? Because sometimes it's manifest, sometimes it's not, but it never ceases to exist. Even when the whole universe is annihilated and merged into the body of the Lord, it still exists in subtle form there. That's how we're eternal. We have this long period of suspended animation. When we have no body, we have no activities, but we don't cease to exist. And then when the creation comes again, we're sent forth by the glance of Vishnu. And then we start again with our manifest activities. So in that sense, we are eternal, and so is material nature. But the transformations come when the modes of nature are working. Karya karana kartvatena. Here come two very important verses. 21-22. The nature is the cause of all material causes and effects, but the living entity is the cause of the various sufferings and enjoyments in this world. So we cause our own suffering and enjoyment due to our activities. If we're in tune with nature, the laws of nature and the laws of God, then we'll suffer much less. This, being in the material world, you have to suffer. But if you're in the mode of goodness, then your suffering is mitigated. But all of this material, the happiness and distress is caused by ourselves. It's the law of karma. You can't blame anyone else. But the world is moving according to the modes of nature. Like things are going to happen in this world. But it all depends on how you take it as to how much suffering you're undergoing. Because after all, the suffering is internal, right? Some people, are by nature, they have a high pain threshold, But some people, any little thing, and it freaks them out, right? So that's, you can develop tolerance. Otherwise, why were you joined to be tolerant? If it's just a question of innate, qualities. We can develop tolerance by the process of devotional service. Certainly, you can become tolerant to ordinary insults. The more that one feels, any little slight is going to be, you'll react with rage. The more you're in the mode of ignorance. The more that you can have to be self-situated, and then, people can do things, and you're beyond it. That's transcendental life. You read in the next chapter, when it's all about the modes of nature. Arjuna wants to know the symptoms of one who's transcended the modes, who's gone from even goodness to pure goodness, Brahmabhuta. And one word says it all, tulya. Tulya means in praise or blame, in heat or cold, gold or dust. It is the same. He's able to tolerate. That's a very important state to get to. Because after all, any yoga process requires steadiness of mind, steady intelligence. And that's why at the very beginning in the second chapter, Arjuna asks what's the symptoms of one who's stita pragya, whose consciousness is steady. And it's all about iksavatana basneha tata prabha shabasabam navananda nadveshti tasya pragya pratishtita. Is that in happiness and distress, cold and heat, fame and infamy, remains equipoised. Raga dvesha vimukta is two. No raga, no dvesha. Raga is a strong desire to enjoy. Dvesha is, no, not this. But in both he says, Raga dvesha vimukta. Free of that. Even in the midst of all these things happen. And that means there's an internal state of mind that's rock solid. Because you're fixed on Krishna consciousness. So this is the material age is going to do its thing, but how we take it, whether sukha or dukkha, that's up to us. And then 22, which for me stands out as really important verse in this chapter, and Prabhupada said, purport, this verse is very important for understanding how the living entities transmigrate from one body to another. So Purusha Prakatisto Hi. It says, the living entity in material nature follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. Thus, this is due to his association with that nature. Thus, he meets with good and evil among various beings. So we as Purusha, means again, the enjoying living entity. We're situated in Prakriti. And we experience the modes of nature as they're rising from the material nature. How we associate with those modes, how we choose to associate and develop those modes, that determines our destiny. Karanam, the cause, the guna sangha. Guna sangha is our association with the gunas, goodness, passion, ignorance. Sadasad yoni janmasu. This causes our birth in good or bad situations. Right? We're all born in a family, a situation that's brought us here to SanDiego in this wonderful. Is it winter? I hope this doesn't mean that it's going to be 120 when it gets to summer. But anyway, SanDiego. Okay, so it's relatively nice weather, and it's a good birth. Let's just call it a good birth. It's a human birth, and the best part of it is that we are inclined to hear Bhagavad Gita. But in so many other births, even here in SanDiego, there's plenty of insects out there. There's plenty of animals, all kinds of trees and plants. That's a lower birth, right? So that's Sadasad Yoni Janmasu. According to how the living entity associates with material energy, you get thrown into the lower birth, so you're exalted. And then he describes the super soul, Upadrashta Anumanta. In this body there's another, a transcendental enjoyer who is the Lord, the supreme proprietor, who exists as the overseer and permitter, and who is known as the super soul. One who understands his philosophy concerning material nature, the living entity, the direction of the modes of nature, is sure to attain liberation. He will not take birth here again, regardless of his present position. So we have to understand that in truth and live according to it. And then he describes how some perceive the super soul through meditation, cultivation of knowledge, giving up food of desires. And then 26 is about us. Others, we don't know so much about spiritual knowledge, but we desire to hear. The tendency to hear from authorities, we can also transcend birth and death. Whatever there exists is simply a combination of matter and spirit. He goes on, text 28, and then here comes this one about seeing. You remember seeing the soul and the super soul in each body. That goes on, 28, 29, sees that all activities performed by the body, but the soul doesn't actually do anything. And goes on. And then the last few verses we studied. So any questions on this chapter? We're going to launch into chapter 14 tomorrow, or Monday. But I'd like to read a little bit about Ramanujacharya. This is his disappearance day, and I neglected to read about it in the morning, although I said I would. So since I said I would, we'll read about it now. Thank you very much for your attention on Bhagavad Gita. Queued up here. Of all of the different other lines of Vaishnavism, and there are 4, the Gaudiya Vaishnava shares the most with the Sri Vaishnava, the Ramanujacharya. So let's see what we have here. Hare Krishna. Okay. Sri Ramanujacharya appeared in 1017 AD near Madras, South India, in a family of Vedic scholars. The Sri Vaishnavas say that he was the incarnation of Lakshman. Lakshman is the younger brother of Ram. The word Ramanuja means a follower of Ram, or it also means younger brother of Ram, right? Anuja, born later. He received this name because Lakshman always follows and serves his brother, Lord Ramchandra. Okay. A boy of amazing wit, Ramanuja quickly learned Sanskrit, logic, and the Vedas. He took Diksha, or initiation, and married at age 16. Ramanuja studied with a Mayavadi guru, Yadava Prakash, to master Mayavadi philosophy and defeat it. When the brilliant Ramanuja kept refuting his Mayavadi arguments, Yadava Prakash, and this is kind of, fasten your seatbelts now. His guru, Yadava Prakash, tried to murder him. Yes. Unsuccessful, Yadava Prakash expelled Ramanuja from the ashram. Why didn't he just do that first, anyway? Before leaving, Ramanuja completely defeated his guru's theory of oneness and no distinction. I mean, like all is one. And he explained, it's a little sample of his logic here. While a certain unity can be seen in the interrelatedness of all things, still everything within the universe has its own distinct reality. Pearls strung on a thread share unity. Collectively, they form an organic whole, a necklace. Still, each individual pearl has its own unique qualities. While spirit, matter, and God may be seen as one organic whole, each has its unique qualities. Therefore, Shankara's principle of absolute oneness can't stand. Rather, the principle of unity characterized by different qualities must be accepted. This is the famous unity in diversity. It's a variety of achintya beta beta. So, this is one phrase that you learn. Achintya means inconceivable. Beta means different. Abeta means the same. So achintya beta beta tattva, or the truth of everything being simultaneously different and one. We share oneness in that we're all spirit souls. We're part and parcel of Krishna, right? But we're different because we never mix. We all have our individual personalities and qualities, and that will continue even in a state of realization. This idea of oneness is artificial. And in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, text 10, there's a wonderful purport where Srila Prabhu describes that this idea of oneness really is born out of fear. It's fear of suffering due to having a form, due to having a personality. Because now we know we all have form and personality, right? But anyone can see this is a source of great suffering. Having a physical body, well, you're subject to the wind and the heat and the cold and the birth and the death and all these things. So for the Mayavadis, form equals body equals suffering. Therefore, ideally, no form, no body, formlessness merge, you see? So it's born out of fear. But actual knowledge is, it's the material body that's the cause of suffering. In our spiritual form, with spiritual senses, interacting with Krishna, it's all a source of bliss. There's no downside. It's the material, destructible body that's the problem. So it was a big mistake there. Sometime later, Yadava Prakash met Kuresh, Ramanuja's student, with a photographic memory. Quoting Shrutis, the best of Vedic proof, Kuresh convinced him, Yadava Prakash, that Brahman has transcendental form and qualities coming from the ultimate reality, the supreme absolute truth known as Lord Narayan. Ramanuja initiated anyone regardless of caste. Using the Pancha Sanskar purification method, he turned Shudras into Brahmins. He established that the position of a Vaishnava surpasses all social limitations and considerations. Identifying himself as a servant, Ramanuja taught the worship of the Vaishnavas. Several times, envious Brahmins tried to poison Ramanuja. To teach detachment to one disciple, Ramanuja staged the following demonstration. He told the disciple to create confusion among the sannyasis by switching their clothes at the bathing ghat. So, there's a whole ritual. They go to the bathing ghat and they hang up their external clothes. They just go in with the kopans like that. So their clothes all more or less look the same. There's slight little difference. When the sannyasis, who were big scholars and renunciants, started wearing each other's clothes, a big argument began. That's my dhoti, that's mine. The disciple could plainly see that the renunciants were attached to some cloth. Then Ramanuja sent the disciple to the home of his Grahastha disciple, Dhanurdas. Ramanuja engaged Dhanurdas in the temple to ensure he wouldn't be home. Following Ramanuja's order, the disciple began stealing. Now, Dhanurdas Grahastha had a wife there. The disciple began stealing jewelry from Dhanurdas' chaste wife, who was sleeping. After the disciple took the ornaments from one side of her body, she suddenly turned over. The startled disciple fled through the window, but he waited outside to witness the reaction of Dhanurdas. Upon returning home, Dhanurdas talked to his wife. "I'm worried that the temple needs money," said his wife. "What makes you think that?" asked Dhanurdas. "Because while I slept, one of the temple devotees came through the window and began stealing the jewelry from my body." To go that far, I think those poor saints must desperately need some money. "What did you do while he was stealing your jewelry?" "I turned over, but he fled through the window." "Why did you turn over?" "I didn't mean to scare him. I only turned over so he could take the jewelry from the other side of my body." Dhanurdas rebuked his wife. "If you were not so affected by false ego, you would have given him all your jewels. Now what shall we do? We have failed miserably." The wife lamented. "You're right. It is only my pride that kept me from surrendering everything. How will we ever make any advancement?" Watching all this, Ramanuja's disciple was astonished at the humility and surrender of these Grahastha devotees. So, contrasted with the sannyasis who were attached to their little cloth, they were ready to give the jewels, so that the Grahasthas were much more renounced than the sannyasis. So Ramanuja explained the meaning of the two events. The sannyasis' clothes and the wife's jewels. The sannyasis were so attached to some ragged bits of cloth that they fought over it. But the Grahasthas were detached even from the costly jewels if they were needed for the Lord's service. Ramanuja founded the Sri Sampradaya. Sri means the goddess of fortune. One of the four major Vaishnava Sampradayas, which descend from Brahma, Sri, the goddess of fortune, the four Kumaras, and Rudra or Shiva. These are the four, and they all have their Vedacharyas. This Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya, propounds the Vedanta philosophy of Vishishtadvaitavad, qualified monism. Gaudiya Vaishnavas and Sri Vaishnavas share many teachings and practices. The Gaudiyas took Ramanuja's explanation of God and the Jiva verbatim. The principle of God is like a blazing fire, while the living entity, a living soul, or Jiva, is like a spark or a small part of God. So this is like, a Chincha Beta Beta, right there. Both accept three classes of jivas: eternally liberated, forever bound, freed by devotion, and sadhana. Ramanuja taught serving God in Vaikuntha with awe and reverence in Dasya Ras, the mood of master and servant. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas teach confidential service in Madhurya Ras to Radha Madhava within the groves of Vrindavan. Ramanujacharya wrote many famous commentaries on the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Sri Bhashya, his commentary on Vedanta, presents a formidable challenge to Shankaracharya's impersonal commentary. To this day, the Sri Vaishnava disciplic succession from Ramanuja continues to uphold the traditions of deity worship and philosophy systemized by the founder. His samadhi is in Sri Rangam, South India. So one amazing story I remember about this disciple Quraysh who's mentioned here. Now, it mentions that he had photographic memory, right? So there's two pastimes I remember. One was that Ramanuja shook up a lot of things. You know, not only the Mayavadis, but the Shaivites were also envious of him because he was winning converts from both camps. You know, very, very influential, very erudite. So one time they came and they wanted to assassinate him. And so his disciple Quraysh, he dressed up. They didn't know what he looked like, you know. So he dressed up as the Acharya, you know, as a sannyasi and everything. And Ramanuja was dressed as a grihastha. So they came and they arrested Quraysh, and they didn't kill him, but they put out his eyes, blinded him. Yeah. So Quraysh tolerated that, and he continued, you know, traveling with Ramanuja. So then Ramanuja went up to the Himalayas, and he was looking for, I think, the commentary by the Madhvacharya on, or he was looking for some kind of writings on the Vedanta Sutra, which were up in the Himalayas. But the scholars and rishis who had it, they didn't want to let him copy it. So they just let him read it. So he read it out loud. And this Quraysh, he memorized the whole thing. And so then when they were leaving, you know, Ramanuja was lamenting, I wasn't able to get the comments. He says, I have it all here. And so he wrote it down from his dictation. And then later on, Ramanuja told Quraysh to go to the deity and pray for his sight back, even though he'd been blinded years earlier. So he went to the deity, but he was unwilling to pray for his own benefit. He was so detached. He came back. So Ramanuja said, okay, go there and you pray for me. You say, my spiritual master has lost some very valuable things. Can you please return them? So he did that, and his sight was returned. And he was able to see again.
Wow.
Yeah. But those are several amazing stories. There's a lot more wonderful things about Ramanuja. There's a very nice book, if you're interested, a printed book. It was very nicely done up, you know, the life of Ramanujacharya. There's so many stories. Oh, one famous one. You know, when he was learning from his Vaishnav's teacher after the Yana Prakash business, he was being trained, and his spiritual master told him, this is a very confidential mantra. I'm going to give you the mantra by which you can get liberation, but don't share it with anyone. You know. So the mantra, I think, was Om Namo Narayanaya, or something like that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So he got the mantra and immediately got up on a high place and said, everybody come listen now, I'm going to give you the mantra for liberation. And he taught them all. You know, like spreading the holy name. So after he did that, his spiritual master was furious. What did you do? You just disobeyed my order. So I know it's a great offense and I'm prepared to go to hell, but if this mantra actually can deliver everyone, why not give it out to everybody? So that's perfectly the mood of, you know, what you've done. You know, when Prabhu came to America, there were certain groups, you know, give us $35, at that time it was $35, and here's your mantra, right? And you meditate 15 minutes in the morning, noon and evening, right? You become very peaceful. So Prabhu says, we're not charging anything for this mantra, it's completely free. But he told it, you know, Hare Krishna mantra. But he told the story how if someone goes around door to door, and he says, oh, here's these very nice mangoes, and they're free. He said, wait a minute, there's something must be wrong. I don't want them, you know. But so maybe we should charge, you know, come and teach you the Hare Krishna mantra. You know, very secret. But it's free, it's completely free. But actually, it's kind of one of Krishna's tricks. Because if you chant the mantra seriously, eventually you realize, oh, I got to give everything up if I really want to be successful. So Krishna ultimately takes everything away. That's why he's known as Hari. But he takes not only your wealth and your, you know, all these things, but he takes your attachments, he takes your suffering also, and he takes your heart, which is what you want. But people who are materially attached say, oh, no, I'm not going to worship Hari. Krishna, I know that Krishna takes everything. I'll worship Ganesh. That way my right? Okay, any other comments or questions?
Oh, I have one.
Yes,
Is he in the disciplic succession list?
No.
Oh.
It's a different disciplic succession. There's
Oh,
four different disciplic
different.
successions.
Okay.
Yeah, this is one that comes down from Lakshmi.
Oh, I see.
So ours comes down from Brahma. You see at the beginning of that list, you see Lord Brahma. Of course, at the beginning it's Krishna for all of them. But then there's four. What did they come down? The four Kumaras, the little boys. They look like little boys, but they're ancient sages. They have their own sampradaya, and also Shiva. Lord Shiva has his own sampradaya. And these are all bona fide. But the one only in the Gaudiya Vaishnava, it mentions Madhurya Ras, but the higher three rasas, this friendship, parenthood, or lover of God, that you only find in the Gaudiya Vaishnava. The others are mostly concentrated on the Dasya Ras, servant, which is the foundation of the others. There's nothing wrong with it. But the more intimate, intense, loving relation with Krishna is found only in Gaudiya Vaishnava. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Expecting this discount when Taurus, can you hang around, please? Usually they don't have
Make lots of it. How you tell you one, huh?
No, I don't know where. It's the name of the battle was just the.
We'll figure it out.
Jai Shiragiri Hari. Jai Jagannath Baladev. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Gurudave Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Vividipandharacharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Bhagavadgitacharya Astotra Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem to Gahosi Krishna Chaitanya Bhavanityananda Shri Vaitika Radha Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Gunnarakun Gita Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Ganga Mahi ki jai. Yamuna Mahi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Transcendental Bhakti Submission ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Anybody need a sheet? Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Valara Lara Jai. Love.
If we're going that way, I would have taken them back. If I'm going towards the village.
Oh, like downtown?
Yeah, down. You should know where you're village, like Boulevard. Yeah, village.
Yeah.
From your house to the bus?
No, the house is all the in the
Okay, Prashadam. You have health food today. 5 o'clock.
Why am I going to go?
I'll be happy to go.
Yes.
Usha, something?
All
Would anyone want to count a plate? I can always count on Suresh. Oh, everybody want to? One or two? How about those?
कल भूल गए तुमने इसको कहा था छोड़ो तो कल भूल गए
You know, I don't know.
डॉक्टर कल तो उसको याद दिलाना निकल के कहती है बहुत मेरी रात
No, you.
नहीं कल yesterday की बात कर रही है कितना नहीं चला गया मुझे बताए
Oh, they didn't come all the way up from Oakland.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
No, it's just-
Yeah,
well,
Saturday.
something like that.
Here we go now.
Yeah, it's nice.
How about tomorrow? For a while?
I know.
Can't make it last.
No, I think I come in like 3 weeks. My day off will be Thursday.
How'd it go? Anyone else want any prashadam on a plate? Come on, Suresh. You can take
Okay,
it
I
all.
think we shall. Is this way?
Enough? One more. One now?
Do you want?
Okay. A puri. How about one of these sweets? No sweets.
Thank you so much. I'll see you on Sunday.
Yeah, but I feel like I have to go
You might be right. But you can't have this in this.
No, I can't play that one is right now. I left. I saw you, but then at the end there were so many people, and I was like, I'm never gonna do this. So I left. I came back. No, but I came back for Sunday service. Oh, did you come that night? And I finally got to see Kyra around. There was a lot of people there. I know. Yeah, I came back from vacation.
When? Doesn't look like this.
It was so nice.
Oh, okay. Yes, you want that phone? How about write me an email? Can you remember my email? Dravida. Prabhu, any prashadam for you tonight?